Okay, good morning. We're on 81A, the fourth line, and we're in the middle of the discussion of Osav Yespino. And the Gemara at this point had tried to use the pasuk Miyom Hashmini V'Hala Yeratzeh from the eighth day. It can be a korban. Miyom Hashmini in from the eighth day it's okay, but May Karla, but before that it's not. Um, so that we figure out from that you can't make the carbon you can't make the carbon too early before the eighth day, and that's a lav by Miklal Seib. So the Gemara asks, could Rebbe up Turiki? But we already used that pasuk. The Rebbe up Turiki Rame. This is Rebbe up Turiki asked the following: Ksiv Shivas Yamim Tachasimo. When the animal has a child, has a calf or whatever, it stays with its mother for 7 days, halayla, and then on the eighth day it can be a karban. Halayla chaze. So on the night of the eighth day, it should be okay because 7 days have passed. Uksiv miyom hashmini v'hala, but it says on the eighth day, which tells us miyom hashmini v'hala in laila lo. So it doesn't start from the night of the eighth day. It starts from the daytime of the eighth day. Okay, so isn't that contradictory? Laila likdusha yom hartza. At night you can be makdish the animal, and the day it can become an actual korban. So if we use that pasuk, so how can Rav Zera say that the that the offering of an animal before the eighth day, before the proper time, is a lav habami klal aseh. So Gemara answers ksiv karachmina because we have another pasuk kain tasa l'sharcho tzanecha. So you should do to your ox and your son. And then it continues Shivas Yamim Yamim over Yam Shmini Titnali. So that extra language, Kain Tasel Ashar Tzanecha, is why we can use it twice. Okay, Amar Rav Amnuna. Amar Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon used to say, Ein Osav Yespino Nog B'Kachim. Osav Yespino doesn't apply to Kachim. In other words, you can actually do shechita of kachim, the mother and child, on the same day. My Tama, why is that? Kevin Yamar Shimon shechita she'ena ruya lo shmei shechita. Since Rav Shimon said that the shechita that doesn't make the animal permissible, right, is not called shechita, and in the case of kachim, shchitas kachim nami shchita she'ena ruya. The shchita of kachim, doing the shchita of an animal that for the mizbeach is not enough to make it roy for the mizbeach. It still has to undergo zrikas adam. So that kind of shchita is not a permitting shchita, is not a shchita that allows the animal to be used, and therefore it doesn't fall under the rule of osav yespino. Lo sishchatu b'yom echad. Masiv Rava asks, osav yespino kachim bachutz. Um, uh, if you have an animal osav yespino that are the shechita was done and they're kachim and the shechita was done outside of the azara, Rabbi Shimon Omer sheni below tase. So the second one, so you did whichever one you did first, the mother or the child. The second one is a lo tase for doing shechita b'chutz. Shahai Rabbi Shimon Omer. So Rabbi Shimon says, "Kol roy levo la'achar zman." Any carbon that it will eventually become acceptable for the mizbeach. Harei below tase. That is a lotase, vein karis, but not karis. The chachamim amrim kol shein bo karis ain't below tase. No, either it's karis or nothing. For kashalon, so he asked kachim b'chutz sheini below tase. So does Reb Shimon say that if you did osav yaspino kachim b'chutz outside the azara, the second one is a lotase? But we just said that Rabbi Shimon says there's no problem with osav yaspino if it's kachim. Kama miktal katel. So the first one was, the shechita doesn't it wasn't a valid shechita because now it's not suitable for its purpose. Can't be offered on the mizbeach. So sheni mekabel bifnimhu. So the second one can be um, can be accepted as a korban inside the azara. Um,
But kachim has to be done inside. How can it be done b'chutz? Doesn't matter which animal it is, right?
right. So sheni mekabel bifnimhu. Um, no, I think maybe as a question because karis nami l'chayv. You should get karis for it because you're doing kachim b'chutz. V'yamar Rava, v'amri lo kedi. Chasri mechzer v'achitai. This is how you have to read it. Kachim shnehem b'chutz. When both the mother and the child are kachim, and both are the shchita that's done outside the azar, the rabbanon, according to the rabbis, rishon on karis. The first one is karis because kachim b'chutz. Sheni puzzle. The second one is just like it's not a valid korban anymore because of also v'yaspino. So therefore, pater milav the shchutei chutz. So there's no prohibition of shchutei chutz because it's not a korban. So Rabbi
Well, what is
Shimon.
it? Wasn't it designated, or you can't even designate it? Is that the point?
Um,
So why is it? I mean, initially one thought that whoever thought I'm going to do both of them b'chutz, but
yeah,
they
but
were
now
they
it's
were not permitted for kachim anyway
but now
b'chutz.
it's psule hamukdashim. Now because you slaughtered the mother, so the second one is the child is no longer valid for kachim. So it's psule hamukdashim. You don't get karis for that.
It's what kule.
Psule
Oh, so
hamukdashim. Yeah. Shem Puzzle, Upatra Milav the Shutei so there's no Shutei Chutz problem. The Rabbi Shimon, but according to Rabbi Shimon, Shneim Anushim Karis, both of them get Karis. Echad Bachutz v'Echad Bifnim, whether one of them inside or outside. Um, for both for each of them, okay? Because he says also yes or no doesn't apply to kachim. So the Rabbanan, according to
so
the
why is there
rabbi,
karet then? If it doesn't apply, why is there karet?
oh wait a second, Shneim Anushim Karis, because each one was because there's no psul here. There's no problem of osav yespino. So if you each one of them is kachim and you do the shechita outside, it's kares for each one of them. According to the rabbis, once the first one is slaughtered is killed, then the second one can't be killed. It's now puzzle.
But isn't there allowed to do the kachim b'chutz? Oh, so that's why
Yes,
they
but
get
it's not
karet.
kares.
That's why they get.
That's why you got a lot. Yeah, there's
That's
only so only a lav would apply. The lav of why 1 second.
that's why they
Um,
get karet, right? Because they did the kachim b'chutz for both of them, according to.
according to Rabbi Shimon, because Rabbi Shimon said there's no problem of osav yesbeno, so they're both valid korbanos. According to the rabbis, there is a problem of osav yesbeno, so the second one is not a valid kachim anymore. So the only problem you have with slaughtering it is the osav yesbeno problem.
Right.
Okay. Now, echad b'chutz v'echad b'fnim. But what if you did the shechita of one of them inside the azara and the other outside? L'Rabbanan, according to the rabbis, rishon on the kares. The first one you did outside, you get kares. Sheni pasul upatra. The second one is not a valid karban because of osav yespino. But if you did the shechita inside, then you're fine. Okay. Well, Rabbi Shimon, according to Rabbi Shimon, Sheni Kasha, the second one is okay because there was no Osav Yasmino. So you did what you did with the first one. You get Kares for doing it outside the Azara. Doesn't affect the child, right? Because the child, according to Rabbi Shimon, there's no Osav Yasmino problem. It's a carbon, and you did the Shechita inside, so you're fine. Now, echad bifnim v'echad b'chutz. What if you did the first one inside the azar and the second one outside? L'Rabbanan, according to the rabbis, rishon kasher upater. The first one is fine, right? The first one you did, it's a carbon. You did the shlita inside, it's good. Sheni pasul upater. The second one, according to the rabbis, there's an osav yes but no problem. So you did the shlita outside. The only problem with the shlita, it's no longer kodesh because it's not valid as a carbon anymore, but you slaughtered it. That's an osav yespino problem. Um, um, so fine, but you don't have any problem with shlutei chutz. The Rabbi Shimon, according to Rabbi Shimon, that
Why not?
says
He did shecht it out. He shecht it outside.
yeah, but it's not it's psule hamukdashim now because you killed the mother. The mother was slaughtered kedasa kedin, but so now according to the rabbis you can't slaughter the child because of osav yespino.
Right. Okay.
The Rabbi Shimon, according to Rabbi Shimon, that it's no problem to do the second one, sheni below tase. The second one, it's just a lav of shlutei chutz. Um, so since the first one is considered a proper shchita, so there's an os of yespino. You can't. So it's valid kachim. The second one is valid kachim, but it's mechusar zman, right? You can't do it until tomorrow. If you did it today, then it's just a lotase.
Can't do
So,
it because of what? Oto et beno? He doesn't
yeah.
hold by that,
Pardon
right?
me.
He doesn't hold by it, does he? Rabbi Shimon.
Um,
So why is it
look,
chutz misman?
one second.
Why is it achar zman? He doesn't hold by it.
She says there's no problem. Also, yes, but no for kachim. Um, because the because the shechita of the first one was completely valid, right? Rabbi Shimon's problem is that if the if the shechita if the hang on a second. Let's see.
Maybe just because it's bechutz. Why do you say bisman?
Kama miktel katle. The first one is has been killed. V'sheni lav mechusar zmanhu.
Chutz zman. We said it's below tase. Shimon, Rabbi Shimon, sheni below tase.
Okay, hold on. So once you finish these rikas adam, I guess of the mother, right? Then it's a valid korban, and Osav Yespino applies again, right? Rabbi Shimon, why did Rabbi Shimon say Osav Yespino doesn't apply? Because the shechita by itself is not sufficient to make the animal permissible for its purpose, right? You also need the zrika. But what if you did the zrika? And now the first animal is Roy for the Mizbeach, right? The Shita accomplished its purpose once the Zriko was done, and then Osav Yespino applies again. Okay, and what he's saying is that if you do the Shita on the same day, then it's not that it's an invalid korban; it's Mechusar Zman. Tomorrow it would be fine to take this child as a korban, right? Because it wouldn't be the same day anymore. Okay, so therefore, chorus doesn't apply. Just a lav it's only the status. Osir Yismino only has the status of a lav.
But well, it says it doesn't. It doesn't apply. Otova et beno doesn't apply at all. So why
But
would
why
there be
did
a
he say
problem?
that? Why did he say that? It doesn't apply if the animal hasn't become roy for its purpose by the shechita. But what if you then went ahead and did the zrika? So it seems like we're understanding Rabbi Shimon to say that once the carbon is complete, the zrika is done, then you can't. Then Osav Yasmino comes back.
Well, where do we learn that from the words here? I don't. If he applies it or he doesn't apply it. He says that oto beno is not
So
valid.
listen. So your question is what the Gemara is going to ask, really. Okay. So hold on to that for a second to see if I'm right. If it's the case, is what you're asking, right? That Rabbi Shimon says Osav Yosbeno doesn't apply for Kashim. Sheni amai belotase v'tulo. And the second one, Karis nami lechayev. The second one, you should have be Karis because it's Kachim bachutz, right? What does it matter that it's an Osav Yosbeno? Rabbi Shimon says Osav Yosbeno doesn't apply, right? This is what you're asking exactly, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Elamar Rava. So Rava says as follows: Hachikamer Rav Chusta, Rav Hamnuna. Sorry, Hachikamer Rav Hamnuna. This is what Rav Hamnuna wanted to say. Ein Malchos Oso V'Espino Noeg B'Kachim. What Rabbi Shimon said was not that Oso V'Espino doesn't apply to Kachim, but the idea of a lotase of Oso V'Espino, like Malchos, for which you get Malchos, that doesn't apply. Kevan de Kama de Lozarik Dom Lamishri Basar, since the shchita itself before the zrika sadam doesn't permit the meat for the mizbeach. Meidna de kashachi, from the time that you do shchita have a hasras safek, because now it's a technical problem of how do you do the warning to the person who's doing the shchita, right? So, because why is it a hasras safek? Because if you don't do the zrika sadam, then the meat will never become roy for the mizbeach, and then the shchita will have been invalid, and it won't have been a proper osav yaspino, right? If the shchita is not a valid shchita, because if the zrika sadam never gets done, then it's not an osav yaspino qualifying event, right? But if the zrika does get done, then it is. So how do you give hasra for this? Hasra suffix lo shmei hasra. You can't give hasra. You can't give a warning, a conditional one. Like you have to be able to tell the person this is what you're violating. It's either kares or a lotasi. Vazar of a lotame. Rava.
So what is the hatra here? What is he actually saying to someone?
Yeah, well, that's the problem. What do you say? Don't slaughter the second animal, or else what? Well, if the shechita was followed by zrika sadam, and then the shechita turns out to be valid, then it's an osav yespino for kares, for the second one. And if not, then it's an osav yespino that's just a lav, right? So you can't, you can't determine in advance at the time of the hasra what you're warning about. So that is a technical deficiency, and therefore you can never get the punishment.
So therefore, but then he really does hold by Oto et Bano, but it just depends on the what component or what component or the timing of the process.
Yeah. And this follows Rava's reasoning. Yamarava, he chulin. What if you have an animal that's not kaddish and the child is kachim, is shlamim, is designated for shlamim? Shachat chulin v'achar shachat shlamim. What if you first slaughtered let's say it's the mother that's chulin, right? First slaughtered the mother as a regular, not as a korban or anything, as a regular shechita. V'achar kach shachat shlamim, and then you take care of the child, which is shlamim. Pater, then you're fine. You don't get malchus according to Rabbi Shimon, because you can't do, like we just said, you can't do the hasra because you don't know if the you don't know if the zrika will be done properly, so it may or may not be a valid shechita for Osav Yespino.
Why not just say they're two separate designations? One is chulin and one is kodshim, and that's enough. That's enough to separate Oto v'Vino because they're not really the same.
Right.
The same intent. It's one is for one thing, one's for another thing. So then it's, I mean, they're making a fine distinction there, but I don't know. Maybe that's not enough.
Well, the distinction is that the second one, which is the shlamim, at the time that you do the shechita, you don't know for sure that the zrika will be done. Right? If the zrika is done, then the shechita turns out to have been a valid shechita, then you have an osav yespino problem. But if the zrika is never done, then the shechita was not a fully qualified shechita for the purposes of osav yespino, then you won't be liable. So at the time of the warning of the shechita, you don't really know what the outcome will be. So it's not a valid warning.
Well, it doesn't matter the order. We're saying Oto Beno. That's he shechted the Beno first.
No, that doesn't matter. Osav Yespino doesn't matter which one you do first. Okay, but here there's a distinction. If since they have different status, there may be a different outcome. Let's see the second possibility. Shlamim v'achar chacholin. What if you did the child first, which is a
Yeah.
carbon, and then you did the mother, which is cholin, chayev. Then you get malchus because the second shchita you can certainly give. You've already done the first the carbon. The carbon is finished. The zrikas adam was done. That animal is right for the mizbeach. Now you turn to the mother and you're going to do shchita. You can get hasra. Yeah, you're going to say you're going to get osov no problem because the child was already underwent a valid shchita. If you do a valid shchita to this mother who is cooling, then you will get you have an osov violation. Okay.
So we're assuming that the entire shkita was done for the shlom for the
Yeah. So the shchita
shlom.
and the zrika. Yeah. But then for the second one, for the mother, which is chulin, there's only shchita. There's no zrika. It's not conditional on anything. The shchita is the shchita. If you do the shchita,
Right.
if the child was already the carbon was completed, then you have an osaviyas problem for the mother, which is chulin. V'yamar Rav also said he chulin b'na ola. Same idea, except the mother is chulin and the child is an ola, not a shlamim. So what's the difference? Lo mibaya shachat pulin v'achar kach shachat ola the pater. Not only do you have a problem, do you not have a problem if you do the chulin one first and then the ola, that you don't have a problem. Um, because you can't have the certainty of the hasra, but also afilu shachat ola v'achar shachat chulin. Even if you did the ola first, the child, and then you did the mother, which is chulin pater. Why? Why are you pater then? Shchita kamaisa lav shchita basachilahi, because the shchita. Like at least with the shlamim, somebody's going to eat part of the animal, right? But an ola is completely burned on the mizbeach, right? So the shchita does not lead to it being permissible to eat. So it's not a valid shchita for osav yesbenolo sishratu. Um,
But they can eat the chulin, right?
you need the chulin, yeah. But
So
but there's but there has to be a shchita of the child for eating and a shchita of the mother for eating. So the shchita of the mother for eating, yes, we have, but the shchita of the child was only for the mizbeach. It's not a shchita that allows you to eat anything because an olah is completely burned on the mizbeach. No person is allowed to eat from it. So the shchita doesn't accomplish making the meat kosher, right? So that is not an osov yespino situation. An osov yespino is only when both of them have shchita that permits it for being eaten by a person.
so would it matter whether the chulin is first and then the ola?
Would it
So the
matter?
Gemara says
Yeah, it would matter because
uvana ola, and now it says don't by
yes, it would matter. It would matter because, well, why would it matter though? Let's see. If you did
because the ola, it doesn't matter. Would it matter whether the ola is first or the chulin is first? Probably not, because in any case the ola is not eaten.
Yeah, you're potter in each case. That's true. That's correct. That's what I was saying.
So he
Yeah,
says
in one case you're
ola.
potter because you have the suffix hasra. In the other case, you're potter because shchita didn't apply. Shchita for the purposes of osav yispino didn't apply to the ola, to the first one.
So he's specifically saying once you say chulin uvana ola, you don't even need to say let me buy
Yeah,
shachat
that
chulin
seems true.
bakar. What? You don't even need to say the second part. You put pater in both cases.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Rabbi Yaakov argues on this. Achilus mizbeach shma achila. No, so what Rava just said is that the shchita has to be for a person to eat. Rabbi Yaakov says no, shchita can be for the mizbeach, right? The mizbeach eats it in a sense. So he doesn't agree with this idea of Rava that it has to be a shchita for a person to eat. Shchita for the mizbeach to eat is also qualifies. So therefore, you would be chayev. And my tama, why? It uses the word he'achol yachel twice. So two kinds of eating: the person eating or the mizbeach eating. Okay. Okay. Next Mishnah. Hashochet v'nimtza treifa. you slaughter an animal and you find that it's a treifa, meaning that it wasn't viable, right? And so it can't be. Then it's not a valid shechita. Hashochet l'avodah zara, or you do the shechita for purposes of avodah zara. Hashochet paras chatas, or if you do the shechita of a paraduma. Chatas here is understood to mean paraduma, which once it's been designated for a paraduma, it's not available for eating. Vishar niskal, or a an animal that has to be stoned because it's a muad and it killed somebody, or various other, or was used for avodah zarah, maybe whatever. There's it's not permitted for eating. Veglar rufa, or the calf in the ceremony of Veglar rufa, which is also asur b'hanah. You can't eat it. Rabbi Shimon poter. Rabbi Shimon says you don't get there's no lav here. V'chachamim v'chayvim, but the rabbis say there is such a problem. Hashochev v'nis nabla biyado. What happens if you do a shchita, but then it becomes a nevela? So, in other words, you did the shchita improperly, right? So that's not a treifa, that's a nevela, an animal that died from a non-shchita process, and now it's a nevela. So
then it's not shchita then.
Correct. The hanocher. So does that count? We'll see. Then it doesn't count as also v'yaspino. The hanocher v'ma'acher, or you do the shechita improperly, like by piercing the passageways with a knife or tearing them. Right. You don't do the shechita properly. Then potter. Mishum also v'yaspino. You don't. That's not a shechita that counts for also v'yaspino. Okay. Amar Shimon ben Lakish, Rish Lakish said, Lo shanu ela shashachar rishon l'avodah zarah v'sheni l'shulchano. What are we talking about? The first one you did for avodah zarah, and the second one you did because you wanted to steak dinner, right? So then the first shechita doesn't count, and the second shechita is not subject to Yosef Yisbeno. Aval rishon l'shulchano v'sheni l'avodah zarah. What if you did the first one for dinner and the second one for avodah zarah? Then potter. To come lami the rabamine, because here we have a simultaneous liability of a death penalty for avodah zarah for the second one you did shchita for the purpose of avodah zarah. Then we ignore the lesser problem of osav yaspinel. Rav Yochanan says, what are you telling us? Something so simple. Even kids in Cheder know this. Ella, what you want to say, if you want to say a chiddush about what the rabbi said, if you want to put a qualifier in, here's what you can say. There are times that even if you did the first one for a steak dinner and the second one for avodah zarah, it can turn out that you're chayav. Like ordinarily, you would say Kamei Midarabamine. Everybody knows that, and you're only chayav for avodah zarah and not for osov yespino. But how could you find a case where you are chayav for osov yespino? Kidon de asru be mishum osov yespino. When the hasra that you were given was, oh wait, you can't do that shchita because you shechted the mother this morning. Right, and they didn't give him hasra about the avodah zarah. Don't do it for avodah zarah. V'lo asru be mishum avodah zarah. So then, the only punishment, the only liability for the person is the Yosef Yespinov thing. So there is a case where even though you were doing it for avodah zarah, nobody warned you not to do it, but they did warn you about Yosef Yespinov, so you can be chayav for Yosef Yespinov.
So isn't it, but it wasn't obvious known that he did avodah zarah? He needs a hatra for avodah zarah.
Absolutely, to get the punishment. Yeah. Any liability that's at least adjudicated by the court, right? You can say you're chayav b'dei shamayim, right? That's another issue. Rav Shimon Lakish Amar, but Reish Lakish doesn't agree. Kevan dechi asru be pater, kilo asru be nami pater. Reish Lakish would say no. It doesn't, it's still a kamei midarabamine thing because he did do those two things, and so the fact that on this technicality of a hasra you can't find him liable for the avodah zarah. Nonetheless, he did it for avodah zarah, and we still say kamei midarabamine.
That's what I just said, sort of, a moment ago. That We knew he did it for avodah zarah. He still gets punishment then, right? He's kulei the rabbi minay. I mean,
well, he doesn't get the punishment of kares of the death penalty. Sorry, of the death penalty for avodah zarah, but because he did this one act, which had two ramifications, we're only going to allow the larger, the more serious liability. Now, because of a technicality, we can't even do that. Nonetheless, he's still exempt from the lighter violation of Osav Yespino. It was a little strange. I mean, the Rabbanan seem more logical, or Rabbi Yochanan seems more logical than Reish Lakish,
but
which is what you're saying.
What is he saying? He's saying that we know that he should get the greater penalty, which would be for avodah zarah.
Right. Therefore, he doesn't get the lighter penalty. But guess what? He doesn't even get the greater penalty either because he didn't get hasra for it.
So therefore, he gets no penalty.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like I said, I think Rabbi Yochanan seems a little more compelling, but that's Rish Lakish's view.
And Rabbi Yochanan would say he gets the lesser penalty because we couldn't give him hadra on the first one.
Yes, correct. V'yazdil tamayo, and they're consistent. Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, the Chiasar of Dimi, or Rav Dimi came and reported the following: Chayave misos shogegin. If you're 1 second. Yeah, if you do something that was shogeg, that if you had done it b'mezid, you would be chayv misa, right? But you did it b'shogeg, chayv malchus shogin, or the same thing if you did something that would make you liable for malchus, but you did it as a shogeg, not a mezid, v'davar acher, and something else, which. Or any other punishment. If you did it b'shogeg, so Rav Yochanan Amar Chayav.
Chayav on what? The greater penalty?
The lesser one.
The lesser one.
Yeah, Reish Lakish Amar Pater. Reish Lakish says you're not. Same, like this is essentially the same discussion, the same argument regarding a broader category. Like we were discussing specifically about Osav Yespino and Avodah Zarah, but they're saying, but here Rav Dimi is saying that they hold that position generally in case of any, two separate things. Rabbi Yochanan Chayav, we're going to elaborate a little. Rabbi Yochanan Chayav, Rabbi Yochanan says you're Chayav. Why? Dil holo asrei. There was no asra, right? Because if you did it b'shogeg, that means like you didn't get warned. Like if you were warned, how could you do it b'shogeg, right? B'shogeg means there was nobody around to do hasra. Reish Lakish Amar Pater. Reish Lakish says you're not. You don't get the lesser liability. The kevan the chiastru bei Pater, because if you had received the warning, then you'd be Pater. Kilo asru bei nami Pater. So even though they didn't give you warning, you're still Pater.
Why would he be Pater if he had received the warning?
Because
he'd be Pater from the lesser
because
penalty.
You're
he'd be Pater from the lesser penalty because he received a warning on the first one.
Yeah.
So that's Kimle the Rabbi Minay. He would
Yeah, and you need both of these sources. If we only had our Mishnah, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish would say this even when you don't have the death penalty, you still are pater from the malchus. But in the case of that Rav Dimi brought. 1 second. But I think I missed something here. Just a second. I'm sorry. So I missed an important point. The Gemara the Rav Dimi's case is talking about Yeah, and the Rashi points this out also. Rav Dimi is talking about a case where there's this shogeg violation that simultaneously occurs with a monetary incurring a monetary debt. So, for example, you made something in the vela, so there's a there's a lav there, but also whoever's animal it was, you owe him money for it because you diminished the value of his animal, right? It was going to be kosher meat, now it's not kosher meat. So in that case, that's the classic kamlemi derabamine, where there's a civil liability or like a punishment liability, let's say, and a monetary one as well. So then we ignore the monetary one. So that's the classic case. Uh, so why are we always also saying that? Because
What's the
if we had
civil
only
liability
said,
there? What's the civil? When he
sorry,
made the animal, what is the civil liability? The animal's treif now.
um,
You took someone that shechted someone else's animal, and now it's a nevela or treif.
so it's not whether you shechted it, but you ate it. You ate somebody else's nevela, right? So you ate a nevela. That's problem. That's your your punishment liability, and you also ate somebody else's meat without asking, right? I mean, the other guy didn't necessarily have to eat it, but he owned it, and you ate it without permission. So that's the classic Kamalemi Darabamine.
Ate
So
someone else's meat there, but that was nevela. When you made it nevela, he's not going to eat it.
yeah, but he still owns it. Could sell it, use it for dog food, sell it to a guy.
Well, wait a minute. How did you get someone else's animal to make it a nevela?
You broke into his house. I don't know. You
Well, then there's another violation. One broke into the house or he stole the animal even before we got to making a nevela.
that was already in the vela, and you grabbed it out of his hand. I don't know. He was offering it to his dog, and you grabbed it and ate it yourself. Now he's out the price of dog food.
Right, but the first act is stealing it, taking it from him, right? So why are we talking about making an avela? He did another violation. He stole
They're
the animal.
simultaneous. You're eating it, and it's not yours. So the eating it is a lav, and the not yours part is a lav, of course, also, but it makes you monetarily liable to the other guy, to the owner.
But even before we get to that, well, it's not it. So we're telling he stole it from the other person.
How did he steal it?
Well, that's a good question. Was it in the street? Did he go into his house? If he broke into his house, you get another lav. You can't break into the house, right?
So you give it back, right? But if you've eaten it, then you can't give it back. Then there's a monetary penalty.
I understand the monetary issue, but there's another monetary issue, right? Didn't he break into the house? I mean, isn't that so? What's the nevela? How does that? I mean, you've got it. It seems like there are three violations.
Okay, never mind
here.
the breaking into the house. I made that part up. Okay,
I understand it, but I'm getting
a
a little. You got more than two violations here.
No, how so?
How's he getting this animal? How does he get the animal? It's not his animal. How does he get the animal? He walks into the backyard. The animal's walking on the street. He just takes the animal from him, so it's in a public place.
I guess I see what you're saying, but I say I'd say that the act of eating it is what constitutes the theft. If I take something out of your hand, I can always give it back. Once I've consumed it, I can't give it back anymore. Then I have a monetary penalty. I have to pay you for it.
Okay. So what's the issue with the nevela? It's not his. I mean, he
ate it. I ate this nevela of yours. So at the same time that I ate it, I committed two problems. One is I ate nevela, which is aser, and the other one is I ate your food or your thing. I consumed your thing, destroyed your thing, and I now I now should have to pay you back, right?
Right, but okay. So leave aside the how to get it, but still, these are two acts that are unrelated. One is an act against God, so to speak, eating the veil. He shouldn't be doing.
That's
The other is
exactly
an
the
act
point.
against
That's exactly
an
the
act
Kamalei
against the
Midrabanan.
person. So this
Yeah.
person, this person, because it's a greater, the veil is greater. the second person who's got nothing to do with your eating nevela, he's going to lose out. He's not going to get his money back.
That's the chiddush of kamle midrabamine. Exactly. It's counterintuitive. It doesn't seem right, right? From that perspective.
He's never going to get compensated.
Exactly. That's right.
Doesn't seem right.
It does not. That's the chiddush of kamle midrabamine.
Yeah.
I guess it somehow in the case of a death penalty, right? When you if you do some kind of death penalty violation that also incurs a financial obligation, somehow it seems a little less counterintuitive, right? Look, this guy's being put to death already. You're also going to make him pay. I mean, from the perspective of the guy who's owed the money, it's unjust, right? Like, what do I care? Like, so he gets the death penalty. That's his problem. Where's my money? Right?
Exactly.
But yeah. So I mean, I hear you, but that's I guess the chiddush of Kamle Midrabamine. It always struck me as a little unjust. But I guess you have to look at it from the perspective of the criminal, right? That like don't pile on so much. He's already getting executed. In this case, he's not getting executed. It's just a love, right? But when you think about it, in the case he's already getting executed, so don't uh, um, don't pile on with the financial obligation. But you're right; doesn't seem just. Okay, but nonetheless, here we are. That is the rule. So why do we have both of these cases, Rav Dimi's case and our Mishnah? So if if we only had the Mishnah, B'hakam Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, that's when Rish Lakish would say that even like if you don't get that there's two punishments involved, but there's no monetary thing involved. So that's when Rish Lakish would say, okay, fine, nobody's losing out. Only give them the more severe penalty. Of Lahab, in the other case where of the guy eating someone else's nevela, right? Then it's a corporal punishment and a monetary punishment. Then he would say, like you were saying, Ken, like, so what do I care that he's also getting corporal punishment or the death penalty? He still owes the money. Maybe Rish Lakish would say that yeah, he still owes the money. So it tells us no, that even in the case of money, Rish Lakish would say you don't have to pay the money. And if we only had the Rav Dimi's case, maybe that's when Rav Yochanan would say that that's when since you don't have the corporal punishment being invoked or applied at all, so the guy should have to pay. But in the case of our Mishnah, where there's no money involved, and you did something that may require both death penalty and malchus, maybe he would agree with Rabbi Shimon that so that's why we have both, and we will stop here for today.
So we have both. So what is the conclusion between the two of them? How do we? I mean, do we hold versus one versus the other?
Oh, so who we hold? Like I don't know. We haven't finished this. We haven't finished the sugya yet. So let's see where we get to tomorrow.
So, but the both of them, they could explain their disagreement on both sides. Both of them could. That's what we're saying.
Yes, that's right. Okay, pick it up here tomorrow. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.